Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner, and you're watching, and...
The one who's not included, apparently.
You're watching episode 69 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What are we doing today, Victoria?
Oh no, apparently I'm not needed in the first place, so you can just do this by yourself.
For some reason, my instinct thought I was supposed to say the title before you said your name. I didn't forget about you.
I don't believe you.
What are we doing today?
Pinocchio?
We were just talking about this, Victoria.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
But you distracted me with your selfishness.
Pinocchio, Part 1, and...
Pinocchio, The Tale of a Foolish Puppet, Part 1, and... something... significant.
Yes. I thought you were saying something generically, and then I realized you were saying the title.
Yeah.
Yes. Pinocchio, Part 1, and something significant. It's interesting, because on the OAC it actually says the title is Pinocchio, and it says it's subtitled The Tale of a Foolish Puppet. So in the name of this video, I'm putting it as Pinocchio Part 1 for length's sake, because I feel like technically I can get away with that, even though the full name is Pinocchio, The Tale of a Foolish Puppet. So, episode 771, written by Dave Arnold. What happens, Victoria?
So this episode is a kids' radio program, which is a fairy tale story retelling of Pinocchio. So Pinocchio's block of wood gets bought by Geppetto, and then he's a brat, and he tries to run away, meets the fox and the cat, and then they tell him that he can plant a tree using the gold he stole from Geppetto that will grow him a tree of gold. It doesn't work, and then he goes off to find the cat and fox for tricking him. And then in the process, he finds out that Geppetto went into the sea to find him. Then he went missing. He finds the blue fairy, not golden. He meets the blue fairy, and she says if he behaves and changes his ways, she'll turn him into a real boy.
Yeah. That's nice and concise.
Thank you.
Good job. So, this is really interesting because I only just now realized for the first time as what was introing this episode that I know absolutely nothing about the origins or history of Pinocchio as a story.
I didn't either.
Because apparently it started out at the very beginning as a series of newspaper articles.
I didn't know that either.
Which was weird. I was very surprised. I really liked how Antonio was played by Jacques-Henri, which means that
he was
laughing French
so hard at that
instead of
because
Italian.
He's supposed to be Italian and he's speaking French the entire time.
Yeah, it's Latin either way, I mean, but still.
Can I just start off with saying this is such a good episode and I took so many notes and I loved everything about this episode.
Really? I didn't care for the episode very much.
I really, really enjoyed this episode. I have a bunch of reasons why. First off, I'm going to say that the couple disruptions from the kids' radio program where people, like the actors, made jokes themselves, this was the first time they never bothered me before in an episode. So I just didn't really find them to be too distracting as they usually are. Sometimes I actually laughed because of them. And all the casting was so perfect. The casting was, oh my gosh, Katrina! I laughed for like 12 days straight. I put Katrina in my notes, and I have a bunch of ones and exclamation marks, and like any of you sick shippers out there, you sick monsters, whoever shipped the cat with a fox, it's now canon somewhere in some type of medium, so I hope you're happy with yourself.
Alright. So, back still with Jacques-Henri, he cries out La Vache as an exclamation.
That was confusing.
So that was weird, yeah. Which is the cow, of course.
Yeah, I did a double take when he said that.
I don't know. Maybe that's a thing that people say in kids' programs.
I've never heard of that before.
Never mind. I'd like to point out that in the episode, they said that Geppetto carved Pinocchio's mouth out of the wood, which would suggest that he carved his mouth like out of a single piece of wood that he was. because after all, his body was still a block of wood, and he was just working his way down the block. But in the episode art, Jay clearly has a jaw which is separately hinged from his maxilla. Like, his mandible was an independent piece that was attached with peg hinges.
No, it could just be, like, he's really good. I don't
know. I would probably run away from that Geppetto, to be honest.
He was really creepy, and then everyone's just like, he's so nice! I'm like, no, he's creepy. He's so creepy.
Yeah, and to be honest...
I felt kind of bad for him, but...
I didn't feel... like, emotionally connected, like, oh, he's his father, though. Like, no.
I didn't either.
He started, Antonio's the one who realized that Pinocchio was alive, and then Geppetto, like, had him for all of, half an hour, and then he ran away?
Yeah.
I really did not feel any emotionally bad for the fact that he ran away at all. Like, I didn't feel like Geppetto was his father. Geppetto was just, like, some guy who got him for free.
Yeah, basically.
Because Antonio didn't want him.
So, Geppetto, was he played by Polehouse?
No, actually. There were a couple of people...
Oh, I was so happy. I thought they got Polehouse to do that voice, and I was laughing so hard.
There were a couple people, and that I thought was like, yeah, he really sounds like Geppetto, and I looked it up just to see who it was, and according to AIOO Wiki, the guy who played Geppetto has never been in another episode before.
Really?
I was really surprised, because his voice sounded so familiar. And
he sounded so much like
that's
Polehouse.
The same thing. Yeah, I thought he sounded like Phil Proctor.
Oh, I thought that was hilarious. I was like, they got him to do, like, an Italian lispy voice. How did they convince him to do that?
I'd like a really... He
sounded like he had such a bad cold, though.
The other person I thought he sounded like was Ellis Birch from Pokenberry Falls.
Oh, yeah, I can hear that.
Like you said, lots of people, like Harlow, made fourth wall jokes here, but it's excusable, because it's a kids' radio program, so it still works within the canon of the show. Got a double dose of the flesh wound joke in a fairly short time. They made that again, and they also made that in album 58.
They killed the cricket.
I know.
Listening, I was like, holy, did that just happen? And then I was just like, no, the cricket's gonna be okay. And it's just like, the cricket was dead. And I was just like, oh my gosh. It's just like the other OAC episode all over again with Wooten's cricket, except for this time he is the cricket, so it's ironic.
Yeah, I did think of that too, of All By Myself. Yeah. I was highly disturbed by Katrina's purring.
I was killing myself laughing.
I found it extremely uncomfortable.
I was trying to imagine them in the booth just laughing at each other.
I was really wondering how Eugene felt about being in the studio, because I felt like he was either extremely unnerved or attracted to Katrina.
I thought about that too. You're not the only one.
It was nice to see Andre reprise his role as Owl, even though it wasn't technically the same voice as Winnie the Pooh Owl.
I was listening to it, and my first thought was like, are you gonna get sued for something by Disney?
It wasn't the same voice at all, though.
It wasn't completely the same voice. It was really close, though, and he did play an owl, so I was just like, oh, be careful, guys.
Technically, he also did that in, like, the owl napping, too. And he was like, hoo, let's go.
It's a good impersonation.
Thank you. So, yeah, the order of events here seems quite strange relative to the Disney movie, at least. So, I said, I know nothing about the source material.
Trying to figure out what was going to go on from here. I said the story could go on from so many different directions from here, and I'm really excited to see where the plot goes.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out if they'd go to Paradise Island or not.
Like, I've never been a fan of the movie or the tale of Pinocchio in general, so I wasn't, not really a fan of this episode so much, especially given the focus on silly voices and one-liners and Katrina's purring and Connie's weird dolphin noises.
Yeah, this was an episode for weird noises.
Yeah. I'm also not usually a huge fan of AIO doing these sorts of old-timey fairy tale retellings in general, and it also feels like it's been forever since we've had a normal story taking place in the town of Odyssey, because it hasn't happened once yet this entire OAC season. And this is the July episode. Yeah. Because we had Follow Me, it was kids radio. The Cure 3 parts was in Alaska. Then BTV. and then To the Ends of the Earth was a missions episode, and now this two-parter, which
yeah.
is Kids Radio again.
That's weird. Well,
That's
yeah,
the
that's
first.
weird.
That's the first 8 episodes at least of this Odyssey season without having any regular in the town of Odyssey.
What are the ones next? Walter's Flying Bus.
Hidden Gems, then Walter's Flying Bus. I don't know what
I
they're
think
about.
Walter's Flying Bus is like a Magic School Bus parody or. No, wait, I saw the cover art.
Yeah, so did I. It looks really LSD inspired.
It looks like Noah's Ark.
I tried not to look too deeply at it because I didn't want spoilers.
I only saw it for like a second, but.
And Hidden Gems looks like it's probably like not like it's Imagination Station or a Bible story being told or something. So, anyways,
the music in this episode so good, such good music in this episode.
I didn't really pick up on it, so I can't comment.
I listened to this
but I imagine it's
episode
probably really
like
good.
a couple times, and the music like really stuck out to me. It sounded so cool. I put like Jay, my baby, in my notes. One of the reasons I love this episode so much is because it's been so long since we've had a really good Jay episode. And this, in my opinion, is a good Jay episode. Because it can have all of Jay's antics, except for I don't have to get angry at him for misbehaving because it's a character, which makes me really happy. I get all of the Jay and there's no strings
None of
attached.
the cray.
Yeah, all the Jay, none of the cray. And it makes me really, really happy. And what else do I have in my notes? I put Pinocchio, this is my prediction. He's gonna screw up in big time Jay classic fashion. And those are all my notes.
I think that one of the big things that really threw me with this episode was I understand that wisdom is the main theme, but I feel like the episode is trying to cram in a dozen side themes of like obedience and goodness and righteousness and all these other things, and it's just really confusing and cluttering things, especially because Wooten, who's supposed to be dead, keeps on throwing in epithets and verses into the mix in between every single scene, and it just feels like it's too packed full of meaning and not enough actual story. And even the story felt like it couldn't stay on the same storyline for more than 3 minutes without suddenly leaping into something else. Like, I felt like I never know where the episode is going or what it's trying to make me think or feel, because the plot is moving all over the place. It was like a collection of sub-stories or skits that were thrown together in a vague order to fill a whole episode. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Pinocchio spends a couple minutes being made, like, he runs away from Geppetto, and, like, the cat and the fox and stuff, and then going to the ocean with Connie, and then there's the blue fairy, and it seems like everything's just kind of in this scattered order, and it's like the main plot of what's going on. There's no single thread narrative, unless you count wanting to be a real boy, but he doesn't even mention that until the last scene of part 1.
Well, so he's only been alive for like a day.
I know, but it's still, as he's going through these scenes, it feels like there's no like main plot driving. It's just like he's going from one random short thing to another random short thing to another random short thing. Like, they weren't meant to strongly connect in a narrative sense cohesively.
It's like Pinocchio has ADD or something.
Yeah, so I felt like that was really confusing and cluttering, especially when it felt like, they were trying to pack in tons and tons of different morals relating to goodness, with just wisdom being the main underlying tone, and it felt like it was like all over the place what it was supposed to be about. So I thought that was confusing.
I can agree with that. Fortunately, there isn't that much left in the Pinocchio story. So the next part will probably stay on track more.
Yeah. I mean, now that he's at the ocean, and Geppetto is drowned, presumably he will go and, try and rescue his father, which begs the questions about both Stromboli, who was one of the first things that Pinocchio did, like going and joining, and I've got no strings to hold me down, and also, of course, the whole Paradise Island and turning into a donkey thing. So either they won't appear, or things will be very out of order, which would be odd because he's at the ocean now and his father is drowning, so it seems like he should go and save him next.
Yeah, this story is really... It's not the Disney order or anything.
I am slightly curious.
It's very disordered. It's like they took all the plot pieces and then they kind of like mixed them in like a thing, and then they just put them in a random order.
I'm curious to know now what the original story is like, to see whether it's because this is trying to stick closer to the source material than Disney was, or if they just kind of hodgepodge to gallimaufry all over the place.
I feel like this is a different order of events than the Disney orders, right? But I could be wrong, because Disney does take a lot of liberties with their stories. Like in the original Little Mermaid, we all know how that one ends compared to the Disney version. Definitely doesn't end the same way. And it's definitely not as long or anything like that.
So, in the online documentary, you first hear from a woodcarver about how he makes his toys and projects. Thanks for asking us to do that part of the documentary, guys.
Yeah, guys.
I mean, it was a woodcarver who made toys specifically, so I understand why they went with that. I'm not too offended. Then an AIOO FAQ with Nathan Hubler. So the first question was, why are there only 6 episodes in an album now? Which does seem to be a good question. Does seem to be the most common question these days, no matter how many times it gets answered. So Nathan said that part 2 of this episode will canonically have Edwin Blackard, which makes sense since Earl Bowen was in BTV a couple episodes ago. And he said there will also be another old character who hasn't been on in a long time. So, don't know.
I've listened to part 2.
So
I'm trying to get... Wait, you have?
Yeah. I told you this last night. Yeah, we're both pretending that we haven't. So, I know what's going to happen.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you listened to part 2.
And I didn't breathe for about a minute. But,
I was eating dinner, I dropped my fork, and then Mom and Dad just stared at me and they're like, eat your dinner. Okay. And I was just sitting there, I was like...
Yes, we were both acting under the guise that we haven't heard part 2. But,
we broke the guise.
There will be another old character who hasn't been on in a long time, apparently. According to Nathan, at least some OAC episodes will be publicly available in the foreseeable future, like the Dropbox already is. Jana Whittaker will definitely return, he said.
Really?
Yeah, there was exciting news in
What about Jenny or Monty?
He only talked about Jana.
I want Jenny to come back.
Next, there was an extended version of the scene where Geppetto got Pinocchio from Antonio. Not much to comment on there.
Oh, I should listen to that.
There was a couple very short 10-second skits of kids being foolish, because wisdom theme, and then a guy talks about wisdom and stuff. And then there was another guy talking about growing up in inner city Chicago and how he got into drugs there when he was young. In the web quest, there was the story about this 11-year-old named Zach who grew up in a shelter with his mom and brother, and now that he's not there anymore, he brings in incredible amounts of donations of toys and blankets and stuff for homeless shelters in the area. So that was cool. And Gary Locke said that the art for this episode is one of his favorite pieces he has ever made for the show before.
Wow.
Yeah. Out of all of the AIO work he's done since 1991, in the last 24 years, like, I don't know, I wouldn't pick this one personally, but to each their own, I suppose.
I like the artwork for part 2 more than the artwork for part 1.
Same. So, yeah, that's interesting. So, any more predictions for next time, Victoria?
I said all my predictions already.
All right. And, yeah, I guess I've said all of mine, too. So, do you want to just rehash them since it's the end here?
Okay. Katrina. Oh, my gosh, Katrina.
That's not a prediction.
It was so great.
Who do you think the character coming back will be, Victoria?
What's his name? Something Hart.
Freddie Hart?
Yeah. He's not in one episode only anymore.
He's gonna break the streak now, 28 years later.
Well, he'll be like the biggest cameo with the longest gap since Jeff Lewis now.
That's true. I was really confused about the character thing, because it feels like most of the characters that have been gone, like, since the hiatus, have returned of the ones that are still, like, where the actors are still alive and around and stuff. Like, obviously Tom can't come back and Bernard can't come back, but, we have, and Bart Rathbone can't come back. And the other ones mostly have, like, Harlow's been on, and Edwin we already know about and stuff like that. My guess, actually, is/was Crying Brian Dern.
I want Crying Brian Dern.
So that was my idea about who would have a cameo.
Because, we need him. What's his...
Corey Burton hasn't been on since the hiatus, yeah.
I miss Corey Burton so much. He's great, and he needs to come back.
It could be Officer David Harley. So, yeah. Final thought? Or wait, no. It's two-parter. Don't have to do that yet.
I liked the part where Geppetto got arrested because it's like, he held a knife to me. I was carving you. I was like, oh, you held the knife to him, but I was carving him. That doesn't matter. Come with me.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Yeah. So you didn't like this episode?
It felt scattered and just kind of a little too silly, and the voices were all like really blah, and Connie's like going like ah.
Yeah, that was. I will admit there were a lot of weird.
And Katrina was doing like creepy, seductive purring, and
it was so funny.
It was
so funny.
So I just didn't feel engaged.
Because I was thinking back to when we were interviewing Katie and Will, and then Will mentioned Pinocchio, and then I started thinking about like everyone's reactions to like doing the voice in the studio. And
what did he say in the interview? I guess we'll see next time. We'll see next time, because the next episode will be the interview.
Oh, motivation to stay and watch the next episode, other than the fact that it's Katie Leigh and Will Ryan, and why wouldn't you watch the episode?
Oh, so good. Okay, so let's leave it off there and turn over to something significant, alright?
Okay, what's a significant something?
And we're back now with Something Significant, episode 625, written by Kathy Buchanan and Nathan Hubler. Just want to point out, of course, it's episode 625, which is a cool number. It's 5 to the 4th, and its proportion out of 10,000 is 6.25%, is also 1/2 to the 4th. So.
You're such a dork.
Well, it's a cool number. It's also one less than Stitch. 626.
True, 626. Well, that's what not Leroy, Sandwich guy, what's his name? Can't
625,
remember.
yeah, is Sandwich guy.
That's... Oh, I know what his name is. They do give him a name in the last movie, but I can't think of it right now.
So, what's this episode about, Victoria?
So, in this epussode, Trent wants to do something important.
For God.
To share, for God. And so then Whit puts him in an imagination station program, and Trent meets this lady who's writing a song, and he doesn't think it's important. So he changes the program himself to meet all these important people doing important things for God. Then, in the middle of the episode, or towards the end, he actually goes back to where the lady is, and he's just like, why am I here again? And then he finds out that she wrote Jesus Loves Me, which actually impacted all the people he met in the much more important parts of the program. And then he got out, and he's just like, oh my gosh, I never knew that she would be in the important one and the not as important one, but still important. And it's just like, yeah, what a coincidence. And then,
I like how he didn't question that. But
and then Trent's just like, I'll do whatever I can, even if it's not as significant and big, as long as it honors God. And it's just like, you go get him, boy. And then it ends. Boy.
Yeah. Yes. It's a very cool, true story, this episode.
I love this episode so much.
So I really, on the...
Ruben is Experiment 65's name. I looked it up.
I guess it's kind of funny because it fits into the topic of this episode, but I kind of like how not everything that Wit invents has to be this whole big thing. It feels a lot more realistic that way. Like, sure, he can spend ages perfecting incredible marvels of science, like the Imagination Station and the Room of Consequence, and intense programming projects like applesauce. But if someone needs him to build something to help out with a small task, he isn't going to create this huge, wacky, ridiculous contraption. He's not more stereotypical, like, mad scientist from a TV show, like, we need help training the dog. I'm going to build a device that'll make the dog hyper intelligent and you'll take over the earth.
Devin just started watching Rick and Morty. Don't watch that show. Don't watch it.
You know what I mean? Like, in movies, it's like scientists like, oh, there's a little task. I'll invent some hyper-intelligent android to perform this simple thing or something. Like, it's like way wacky and over the top and create some zany
Wit's
contraption.
got more chill than that.
Yeah, like, but do something.
He doesn't have that much chill compared to other people, but he's got more chill.
So when Wit needs, something to help, he doesn't create this huge, wacky, ridiculous contraption from scratch, Strataflyer, but he'll go as simple as he can while filling the need that he's trying to, like modifying a cash register so that it can accommodate queue numbers for lines.
Hey, Devin, what's that? You got some salt stuck in your throat?
Yeah, apparently. There's no need for Wit to reinvent the wheel every time, and I feel like they could make Wit invent all these zany things every time someone needs his help, but that would be very campy and unrealistic, to be honest.
I think he would need to be far more eccentric of a character to do that.
True. But I think he is a lot more eccentric than we give him credit for most of the time.
He is. I will say that.
So yeah, I just kind of thought about that and appreciated that, and it really does fit into the theme of this episode in retrospect, doesn't it? About doing something significant with small things.
Yeah, whenever they sing the song at the end.
I know, we'll get there.
I always get goosebumps at that part. That's my favorite part. I love it so much.
So, can I just say how incredibly empathetic Trent is in the beginning of this episode? Like, the way he talks about why he wants to be in the play so he can be a part of something that helps people, and the frustration of being sidelined, and the desire to be relevant and be part of big things for God. Like, I've always found the beginning of this episode to be overwhelmingly relatable, which is an excellent way to begin things, always. Do you agree?
Do you agree? I don't know, every single... Because
It's funny because it's Thanksgiving today. I just realized that. Sorry. It's funny because I just made a Jimmy in Thanksgiving at Home reference, and today is Canadian Thanksgiving.
Ooh. It's not American Thanksgiving.
I intended that. Yeah, sorry, go on, Victoria.
I don't know. I think it has to do with the fact that you were older than me, and I was younger when I first heard this one. But I was always just, like, at the beginning, I'm like, Trent, why you whining, boy? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I've always found this to be one of the most, like, relatable topics in an episode ever. Personally.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite episodes of all of Odyssey. I know that I say that a lot, but this is in my top 10. So
as Trent gets into the Imagination Station and Mabel starts talking to him, I was just really appreciating the continuity that's lent to the different generations of the Imagination Station. Because at the very end of Exit, Wit starts to rebuild the Imagination Station after it was stolen by Andromeda and incorporated into the think tank launch and then blown up by Tom. And by the American Revelation, he's finished creating this new version, and Marvin uses it. And it has this new interface voice that's never been heard, and this same voice is heard by Mabel in the Eugene Returns trilogy, and in this episode, off the top of my head, there's probably others too. And then, that's all before Wit creates a new Imagination Station in album 50, and when Kelly uses the new one in Imagination Station Revisited, it's now a different voice than in this. So I just really appreciate that they got, like, the continuity was very solid on that.
Mabel's like, this isn't even my last form.
This isn't even my final form. Yeah, man, I adore this episode.
It's just
so much.
So good.
Like, the story of Anna Warner's impact on the world is a story I have told to many a person over the years. it's just a really, really cool real life example, true story of the impact that we can have when we let God use us how he wants to, no matter what it seems like. And that's really exciting.
And like the first time we listened to this, I don't know if you remember this. I certainly do.
No,
The next following church service we went to right after listening to this episode a couple days later, they were singing Jesus Loves Me, and we haven't sang that song in like 10 years, basically. And Devin was like on stage playing trumpet, and I was like in the congregation singing, and then I was just like, and I just like looked at him, he looked down at me, and we're both like, oh, in this moment, it was just like, oh my gosh.
So, it's things like Trent's, now where's the stop button? And then hitting a button somewhere in physical space that really make me question exactly how the imagination station really works.
I like to think he had the remote control with him.
Especially since it sounds almost like he's walking out of the illusion as he looks for the button, and then the audio starts to sound distant before he hits the button, and then everything like stalls. It reminds me of Connie.
The Bible's dirty Bible.
It reminds me of Connie and Eugene in the stable and Back to Bethlehem when Eugene hits the shut-off button. I always presumed that he was using the remote, like you said, but he could have also hit a button on the control board, and I guess it for some reason like the sound design makes it sound more like he was hitting, like when he's like, because he's saying like, where's that shut-off button? And it feels like he's like,
so do you just like
around.
Reach out your hand and then you like
reach through Anna Warner's chest, and then like the dashboard's there, and
maybe like go like that and like punch her in the face and throw the.
It's like Once Upon a Time, you like rip her heart out, and that's the shut off button.
And you're like, turn it off, Mabel. And
yikes!
Do you think you're the one who brought it to the dark place? Do you think anyone's ever gone like they're in the dark or something like that in a adventure, and they're like feeling around for like
Victoria? I'm going to cut you off on this line of thought.
No, I think like, do you think they ever like hit the stop button accidentally?
Oh,
while in an adventure?
I don't know.
Like, yeah.
So it's an interesting question, and we come back to topics of how does the imagination station work a lot after we did our discussion.
That's because it's so confusing.
It is. So I guess in some instances, is one guess I have, it's possible to like physically shake yourself or pull yourself out of the illusion of the program. Clearly that doesn't always work, like it didn't for Alex in the breaking point when he got claustrophobic.
See, Alex's situation makes everything so complicated.
I know, because even then...
Every single time we talk about how the imagination station works, I always have to think back to Alex, because that kind of changes everything.
Exactly, because even then, he was able to physically bang his arms against the wall of the station. Also, you can hear the program, which is weird. I'm
always imagine like a Clockwork Orange thing, like they open it and then he's just sitting there and he's just like, and like the screen's in front of him and it's just like, be part of the adventure, Alex. And he's like, no.
I don't know a whole lot about Clockwork Orange, I'm afraid.
You know, when
Mr.
they,
McKay
hold the eyes open and then they like make him watch stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that's right.
That's Clockwork Orange.
Mr. McKay told us not to watch it because it was too creepy and messed up.
It is. At one point they start singing like nursery rhymes while they beat people up very violently after breaking into their house, and that was very terrifying.
Back to the point. So Alex, even while he was broken out, he was still able to physically bang his arms against the wall of the station. So I don't know. It's weird and inconsistent, and I don't understand it. I still stick with the theory we gave in our Imagination Station video discussion.
I blame Stanley Kubrick.
I really love Whit's little cheekiness with locking the program in place, and I like how...
Me too!
I like how he predicted that not only would Trent try to change the program, but that Trent would check the program name and try to jump ship.
Trent is one of the resident geniuses.
Trent is very much like Whit. I think that's why.
What?
Trent is very much like Whit. I think that's why.
He is very much like Whit. Trent is kind of like... the older version of Matthew that we have now. But like less... Matthew is more exact copy of Whit, but younger. And Trent is kind of like almost Matthew.
But he's also like Lawrence Hodges, because he's the imagination kid.
Well, a little bit, yeah. There's always one imagination kid.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Who's the current one we have now?
I don't know. Jay? I
Maybe
don't know.
Jay. I don't know. I'm thinking like either Jay or Camilla, probably.
I don't know if we have one right now.
I don't think we have one. I'd go with Jay.
So I like the structure of this episode in that it makes it seem like we're viewing 3 non-causally related stories. Just like, they're just stories that have a similar theme, and there's 3 of them. Because that's been done in other episodes, like When in Doubt, Pray, with Mandy and Eugene, and they go to 3 stories of, William Tyndale and Charles Oberlin and...
The other person.
What else they went to...
The orphanage or something like that?
Yeah. What's his name? It's not... Mueller, yeah. Father Mueller.
Yeah.
I was going to say Rip Mueller, but no, that's Mom's upright downstairs.
I never liked Jesus Loves Me before this episode. I think it's because they used to make us sing it.
It's just a little kid song, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they used to make us sing it all the time in Sunday school, and I didn't like singing songs in Sunday school. But they like forced you to sing it, so I never liked it, and then I like it now after this episode.
But yeah, like I was saying, so this episode is structured with the 3 stories, and it seems like it's the same sort of thing as When in Doubt, Pray, where there's 3 stories that have a similar theme. They're not actually like connected in a causality kind of way. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember, but I can imagine the shock I probably felt the first time I heard this episode as I realized they were all connected to each other.
What you doing?
Recording.
Oh, sorry.
You said that really angrily. Or emphatically, at the least.
Dogs are being left in here, now they're gone. I don't know what's going on.
It's also worth pointing out how the 2 big examples of the outcomes, I think, I don't know if there's, say, a significance to this intentionally or not, but I think it's kind of interesting. The 2 big examples of the outcomes of the song, which are Amy Carmichael and JFK, they're well chosen because they represent two different sides of the coin that were majorly impacted, because Amy Carmichael represents the spiritual impact of the song, as she spread the gospel to India, saved many lives through her work, whereas Kennedy represents the secular effect, as, his life was saved and he went on to become president of the US and affected millions of lives independent of spiritual effect. So together, these 2 specific examples help show how wide-reaching the effect of this song was, and still is today, both like secular and spiritual together. And it's also nice that copyright actually allows the show to make this episode and sing the song.
I really love the parts with Trent, and he's just like, "Hey God, I'm in your holy fountain thing," and he's like stomping around, and I don't know why that always just made me laugh. And I like, cause I was showing.
Do you think if you went into warm water in the imagination station, you'd wet your pants? Because that's the thing, right? With like people sleeping and they like prank people by like putting their hand in water.
It's not real water.
Well, I know, but it's still a dream, so maybe I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right.
This,
I guess you're right. It's not real water. Never mind.
It's not real water. I was like showing a bunch of my friends the other day the if it bites you and it's poisonous thing. So it reminds me of the line, and it's just like, what if you bite yourself and it dies?
It's voodoo.
And then it was what if you bite someone else and it dies or something like that, and that's correlation, not causation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like this episode. He thought it was correlation, but it was actually causation. And I didn't know what correlation meant until this year in psychology.
Yeah.
I finally know what that word means.
We had a long conversation about that at dinner last night. We were looking up, those good old websites that just have a bunch of spurious correlations that just happen to fit together. Like, the divorce rate in Kentucky correlates with the number of suicides by falling out of boats, stuff like that. Or that the deaths by steam and hot vapor and hot water correlate with like per capita consumption of mozzarella cheese in the US, stuff like that. Anyways, So the end of this episode always makes me emotional when Amy talks. Amy talks about the impact of the song, and then the adults and kids all sing about it and stuff. Yeah, it's really good.
Just go listen to this episode. It's just a perfect episode in my opinion.
Yeah, I've always found this episode to be absolutely phenomenal for so many reasons. The theme, as I said, is overwhelmingly relatable as a Christian. It's based on a true story. It's an interesting story. We move through the story with essentially the same ideas and misconceptions as Trent about what's going on, and the narrative is structured in a way that forms the story together very well with very good pacing. And the music is also...
And very good music.
The music is very great, and Trent as a character is as on point as always. So that's a lot of good points. This episode is fantastic.
And Whit is just so darn clever in this episode.
Yeah,
I love it.
Exactly, yeah.
He is such a troll in this episode.
I'm not sure I have anything bad to say about this episode whatsoever.
I don't either. I have no complaints about this episode. And, okay, how do you dye your skin with tea? Do you, like, bathe in tea?
Yeah, or you take the tea bags probably because they're so concentrated and you just hold it on until it, like, stains your skin. It wouldn't last for long.
Okay, that was always what I thought, but... Yeah.
Tea would take a long time to set in. You'd want it more concentrated, so you probably, like, dab the tea bag. It wouldn't even dye your skin. You'd probably just dab the tea on concentratedly and just let it dry like that. So you're not even staining your skin. You just have, like, a layer of dry tea on your skin, probably.
So, like, how dark do you think that would have made her? 'Cause she was Irish, so she would have been...
White as they come.
Possibly a ginger? So pretty pale.
Yeah, I'm sure she passed very well as a ginger Indian woman. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, she dyed her skin. She probably found a way to dye her hair.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea, Victoria.
Okay.
So, final thoughts on this episode.
Butter melting all over your face. So good.
Down your face, I think. Is
Down your face.
What you said. I'll go first.
Chocolate melting in your ears, butter melting down your face.
I could go first. 5 out of 5. No question. Like
Definitely.
I said, I can't even think about a criticism to give for this episode. My final thoughts, I just said them, and I'll repeat it again just for emphasis about how good this episode is. The theme, as I said, is overwhelmingly relatable as a Christian. It's based on a true story. It's an interesting story. We move through the story with essentially the same ideas and misconceptions as Trent about what's going on, and the narrative is structured in a way that forms the story together very well with excellent pacing. The music is also great, and Trent as a character is as on point as always. And Whit is also
plot twist makes this episode.
Yeah.
And
that too, yeah. It's
so
just the list goes on and on.
And Whit is just, oh my gosh. Listen to this episode if you've never heard it before. This is one of AIO's best.
I agree.
And 5 out of 5. More than 5 out of 5. But yeah. So good. So sugoi. And yeah.
Yeah. It is.
I ruined the moment, didn't I?
Did. Well, that's okay. What are we doing next time, Victoria? We talked about this.
I wish I had... Yeah, I know what it is. I just wish I had, my book so I could just hold it up really awkwardly and then put it down. Woo! Woo!
Adventure is not a de-intensifies.
This is why we don't have any friends.
Excuse you.
Okay,
You're all my
friends.
friends.
Devin doesn't have any friends.
Okay.
This is why Devin takes all my friends.
It's funny because it's true.
It is true.
So yeah, what are we doing next time, Victoria?
We are interviewing Austin and Tosh.
Nope.
No, I'm kidding. We're interviewing Katie and Leigh.
Katie and Leigh?
I can't
both of
talk. Yeah, Katie and Leigh and Will and Ryan, all 4 of them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big podcast.
And it's gonna be great. Stay tuned.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Please join us for the interview. It's going to be fun.
Katie and Will are the funniest people I've ever met. Please watch the video.
They were such a delight.
They're so much fun.
Okay, so...
And we answered some of your questions, too. Some people sent in questions.
We weren't able to hit all the questions that were sent in or all the questions we had because of time constraints. We got to a good portion of them. So please join us for that. It's going to be really cool. So until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. This has been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And this has been Victoria, because I don't think I've said my name in this episode yet.
Yeah, you haven't. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.